Thanks for tuning in to Backyard Broadheads. You can check out the products that I make and the gear that I use at backyardbroadheads.com. Today I want to compare the Killer Instinct Fatal X to the Ravin R29. I have a Ravin R29 and I have been looking at the Killer Instinct Fatal X online. If anybody knows a way I can get my hands onto a Fatal X just to do an in-person, on-hands review of it, please let me know. These crossbows have similar dimensions. They're both about 29 inches. The Ravin is about 25 feet per second faster, so you're looking at 405 feet per second versus 430. Price is a huge difference. We're going to go over all these details. If you're in the market for a compact, fast crossbow, I think you should look at both of these crossbows, so let's get into the specs and details. Alright, the Fatal X versus the Ravin R29. Fatal X from Killer Instinct. Let's start with the speed. Fatal X 405 feet per second, Ravin R29 430 feet per second. 405 is more than what you need for hunting white-tailed deer. That is super fast. That is 50-yard shots on deer in the right situation. If you're really good, maybe 60 yards. I'd say the same thing with 430. 50 for sure, maybe 60. Please let me know your opinion on how far you can shoot a deer with these speeds. So, I mean, 430, that's cooler than 405. But at 430, you know, how much stress are you putting on that arrow? Stress on the limbs might be a factor. Is the Fatal X going to shoot smoother because it's going slower? Is 25 feet per second a negligible difference? Either speed, it's over 400. They're super fast. Speed's not an issue on either one. I'm not sure how you guys feel about that, but speed's really awesome on either one. Kinetic Energy. I don't think about kinetic energy very much. I think about you're shooting a crossbow bolt 400 feet per second and more. That's more than enough energy to kill a deer. It's enough energy to kill two white-tailed deers side by side. Let's move on. The trigger on the Fatal X. It's a pretty standard 3.5 pounds. That's a good poundage for a crossbow trigger, in my opinion. The Ravin R29, I wouldn't be surprised if it's under 2 pounds. The trigger is extremely light. I think it's what you need for shooting very accurately, but I think you can also shoot very accurately, just as accurate, with a 3.5 pound trigger. So the R29 trigger is awesome. The Fatal X trigger, I've never shot one. It's got a good poundage. I don't know how great the trigger is. If you have a Killer Instinct, let us know. So I think either trigger is fine. The width cocked, 6.25 inches on the Fatal X, 6 inches on the R29. Overall width is probably about the same. You can check out my other video on the actual width of these crossbows and some other crossbows. So, I mean, that's basically a tie for the width. No big deal there. Of course, I'm not going to skip over that the Fatal X is made in China, Ravin is made in USA. I think they both have a good reputation. Uncocked, pretty similar. 9.75 for the Fatal X, 10.5 on the Ravin. Similar. Ravin's a little bit wider. Not much. Not a big deal. The length. A major reason why I made this video is because these specs are so close. Your length, this is going to be on the Fatal X if you take off the stirrup. So I'm comparing the Fatal X with the silent crank, not the one with the cocking rope. The Fatal X with the silent crank. That way you can take the stirrup off. The Ravin R29 doesn't have a stirrup. It only comes with the crank. So your length, you're looking at about 30 inches for the Fatal X and 29 inches for the R29. Basically a tie. My mind goes back to made in USA, made in China. The biggest difference here. The weight for the Fatal X, 7.4 pounds. The R29, 6.75 pounds. So weight, the R29 definitely wins that. It's nice to have a light crossbow. A lot of times that weight doesn't matter. Now if you're walking a lot, if you're using a climbing tree stand, this might be a bigger factor, but if you're just sitting in a blind, sitting on the ground, or sitting in a tree stand, the weight's probably not going to be a big deal, but the Ravin definitely wins on that. The Ravin is a little bit heavy. My Barnett Raptor FX2 is definitely lighter. Draw weight, I don't think we should even compare this very much because they both have a crank. Draw weight's not going to be very high. I know it comes down to 12 pounds with the R29, so you're going to be, I don't know, 5 to 10 pounds probably with the Fatal X. It's very low. It's a crank. That poundage really doesn't matter as far as comparing these two things. Let's move down here. Alright, so our power stroke. This gets into the efficiency. The longer your power stroke, the more efficient your crossbow is. So it's only an inch difference in power stroke, but that can make a difference in efficiency, as in how much is your arrow going to oscillate in the air, and how loud is it going to be? How much vibration is there going to be? So you should have less vibration with a longer power stroke, so the Fatal X does win in that category by 1 inch. The crank. The crank mechanism on the Ravin, there's a tiny little stub that sticks out, so it's an internal mechanism. The crank, I would say about half of it sticks out on the Killer Instinct. We'll take a quick look at that. That crank on the Killer Instinct does stick out, but it's not going to be in your way for hunting, so the Ravin wins on that. The Ravin's design is cooler. I'm sure that the Killer Instinct crank works just fine. Now I'm not sure where they store the handle for the Killer Instinct. The Ravin stores up front in a nice secure location. Price. Country of origin and price. Two big differences here. So your Fatal X is $700. Your Ravin R29 is $2,300. That's a $1,600 difference. How many crossbows can you buy for $1,600? If you're looking at Barnetts and Killer Instincts, you can buy a lot of crossbows for that difference. Now I have the Ravin R29. I love it. I wouldn't give it up for $1,600 and a Fatal X. I would like to also have a Fatal X, but I wouldn't give the Ravin up to get one. So obviously your price is a huge difference. Are you getting what you pay for with the Fatal X? Well, we'll find out after some people own it. One thing I hate about reviews online, like Amazon reviews, every product in the world, a great product or an okay product or a bad product, every product has bad reviews. And if you sell 100 of something and one of them's bad, good chance that person's going to leave a review, and that goes out to thousands of people. So you have to look for trends with your reviews. Are all the bad reviews complaining about the same thing? Do you have 97% of your reviews positive? So look for trends when you're looking at reviews. And I don't have it on this list here, but country of origin. Fatal X, China. Ravin R29, USA. Let me know your opinion. To my viewers, I ask, what's your opinion? Which one would you go with? Thanks for watching Backyard Broadheads, and let me know what you'd like to see in future videos.